one of the wealthiest cities in the world. But by the 1980s, this center of global commerce found itself under siege. From the air, the city had grown up around its tiny airport, but had long since outgrown it. Now, the constant onslaught of huge commercial jetliners was endangering the lives of residents. And the airport's tiny size was threatening to choke off the lifeblood of the city: trade. Hong Kong desperately needed a new world-class airport. But where to put it? There was only one option: to build it 16 miles out at sea. But that would require the largest engineering project in history. It would mean building the longest bridges in the world and massive new underwater tunnels, 22 miles of new superhighway, and high-speed rail. Builders estimated the project would take decades, but they were given only 7 years. Could engineers and builders working on an absurdly tight deadline pull off a project this extreme? And would building such colossal structures only invite disaster in the future? On July 6, 1998, time was up. 7 years of round-the-clock construction, a $20 billion price tag, and 10 million man-hours had come down to this. One final challenge, perhaps the most ambitious of all: shut down the old airport, divert all traffic, pack up staff and equipment, and relocate to the new airport in just 7 hours. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Cathay Pacific Flight 889 crosses over Hawaii. If all goes according to plan, it'll be the first plane to touch down at the new airport at 6:30 a.m. But for now, it's a Hail Mary pass, because the new airport is still not operational. At 1:17 a.m., the runway lights at the old Kai Tak Airport are switched off for the last time.
Goodbye, Kai Tak, and thank you.
The massive road, rail, air, and sea lift gets underway. It will take more than 800 trips to ferry the critical contents to the new Hong Kong International Airport. As the sun rises on July 7, 1998, the new air traffic control makes contact with its first customer.
Tango, you guys in?
China Southern 307, course departure.
China just 212, sir.
At 6:25 a.m., Flight 889 touches down on the north runway. Hong Kong International Airport is up and running.
The first option is to maintain the existing two-runway system with further investment in airport facilities so as to maintain service quality. These include expanding Terminal 1, adding a new concourse in the midfield, and building more aircraft stands. The cost of this option would amount to around 23.4 billion Hong Kong dollars in 2010 dollars. The number of aircraft movements at a runway directly affects an airport's passenger and cargo handling volumes. The existing two runways at the airport can only handle 420,000 flights annually, which translates into transporting 74 million passengers and 6 million tons of cargo a year. In 2030, the aviation industry is expected to bring in an estimated 120 billion Hong Kong dollars of direct, indirect and induced economic contributions, equaling about 3.3% of the estimated local GDP by that time. It will also provide about 100,000 direct employment opportunities. However, it is anticipated that the airport's runway capacity will reach its saturation point around 2020 and will not be able to accommodate additional flights. Once the runway capacity is saturated, airlines will find it hard to introduce new routes. They will deploy larger aircraft to carry passengers and may concentrate on more lucrative long-haul routes. This will shrink Hong Kong's flight network, undermine its competitiveness, and slow down its economic growth. As a result, Hong Kong's position as a global center of commerce could be irrevocably damaged, undermining foreign investors' willingness to directly invest in Hong Kong. By then, passengers might also experience more flight delays, longer connection times, and higher ticket prices. This is very common in airports where demand outstrips supply. Option 2 is to add a third runway north of the airport, build a new passenger concourse with bridge-served stands, reconfigure Terminal 2, and add new cargo parking stands in the midfield to meet anticipated demand by the year 2030 and possibly beyond. This option would cost 86.2 billion Hong Kong dollars in 2010 dollars. By 2030, the aviation industry is expected to make a direct, indirect and induced economic contribution of 167 billion Hong Kong dollars to Hong Kong, equaling approximately 4.6% of the estimated local GDP by that time. The airport will also provide around 140,000 direct employments. Although the cost of the two-runway option is lower than that of the three-runway one, it will only bring in an economic net present value of 432 billion Hong Kong dollars in 2009 dollars, far less than the three-runway option's 912 billion Hong Kong dollars. On the other hand, while the three-runway proposal represents a larger upfront investment, it will generate higher added value and greater economic contribution in the long run. If a new runway is to be built, about 650 hectares of land will need to be reclaimed. The work will unavoidably have an impact on the environment. The Airport Authority has already conducted preliminary assessments of the possible effects on marine ecology, including the Chinese white dolphin, as well as in areas such as aircraft noise and air quality. In building a third runway, the Airport Authority would not only rigorously comply with all statutory environmental standards, but also hold fast to its long-standing commitment to environmental protection with the utmost care and professionalism to effectively mitigate environmental impacts.